Long-time viewers of this channel will know that the start of this channel came from me reading rumours and leaks on Doctor Who Flux from Reddit. That's kind of what kick-started this whole thing that you're seeing today. And today, I was minding my own business, working on an unrelated video, which has just come out on the version of Series 5 that would have included the 10th Doctor, which if you haven't watched, I'd highly recommend watching after this video. I'll leave a link in the card in the corner so you can watch that after this. But my timeline on Twitter was buzzing with people talking about a new leak that had come from Reddit. This one seems to be a sort of compilation of reliable leaks from various places, some of which could be true, some of which could not be true, some of which lines up with things we've sort of heard already, others don't. We'll see where we go with this. There's one particular rumour and idea that's really caught on in sort of the fandom consciousness, so let's just get right into this. Subscribe if you're new, by the way, haven't said that in a while, but we are trying to get to 25,000, and if we could get there soon, I'd absolutely love that. Alright, so the title is Series 15 Leaks, some small, some major, so beware spoilers. Okay, so here's the latest leaks I found for Series 15 from various sites. Some are rather small, some are huge, so beware. Ruby won't be travelling with the Doctor for the majority of the season. She'll appear throughout, including a Doctor Light episode where she'll be working with UNIT. She and the Doctor will reunite in the finale. I think this one, if I'm basing it on what could be the most likely, this one here, pretty likely to me. I don't think that Minnie Gibson is in the whole series. As far as I understand it, it's probably going to be closer to half. So I think this probably does make sense. Maybe if it's not 100%, it's close, I think. The series will include one returning monster, but no Daleks or Cybermen. I'm kind of surprised by that, but also not. Russell has said that he wanted the new era to focus a lot more on new threats. However, I am itching for a new Dalek story, specifically so we could get the 50th Doctor's reaction to them. Series 15 will continue to lean into fantasy. Yep, no surprises there. We already know that via filming location stuff that the Pantheon are likely going to get a new God edition because we've seen the Harbinger on location as well as Mrs. Flood. So this doesn't really surprise me. Episode 2 will take place in 1950s Miami and will focus on the paranormal. I'm assuming that's the same one that I was talking about earlier that's very sort of 1950s-esque. We'll get an episode that takes place mostly on the TARDIS. That's a really cool idea to me and one that I hope is accurate. I always have loved TARDIS episodes, and I think that new set is beautiful enough to where I think it'd be really cool to see an episode purely focused on that TARDIS. Maybe finally show us some of the new rooms. I think that'd be really cool. Murray Gold wrote a new original song for a scene that takes place during a concert on an alien planet. I think Russell has said there'll be more songs in season 2, so again, seems pretty likely to me. Jonah, who are king, will be playing Mrs. Flood's grandson. So this is someone who was announced fairly recently, I think, to be a recurring character in season 2. We know via filming images there's probably going to be some sort of romantic connection between him and Ruby Sunday. Him being Mrs. Flood's grandson might make sense, especially if there is more to him than meets the eye. Perhaps he could be part of the Pantheon. Sure, Mrs. Flood will be the central antagonist of the finale, which will involve her reshaping time and trapping the Doctor. Interesting. We know that Mrs. Flood is supposed to get more focus next year. I don't know whether they'll go for her being the core villain of a series this early on. The way I see it, I see Mrs. Flood as more of an end-of-era thing, although having said that, Russell did say that these two series were written as one whole story, so maybe you could argue that concluding Mrs. Flood in season 2 would make sense. Mel will die in the finale, sacrificing herself to save Ruby and Belinda. This is probably the first one that's is completely out there and I've never heard before. The rest of them seem somewhat likely to varying degrees. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll happen. It's just the likelihood seems higher. Mel dying would be a move. It's not something I'm necessarily against, although if you are going to do that, I feel like at least we're owed an explanation of how the hell she got back to Earth. This will leave the Doctor wanting to somewhat distance himself from humanity, fearing that he puts too many people in danger, and then with the Doctor being out of reach during the events of the war between the land and the sea, it will be revealed that the Master is now a prisoner of UNIT, and he will be forced to help with the Sea Devil situation, finally giving him a chance to be the hero, kind of similar to Loki. The Master will be played by Russell Tovey, Gugu and Batharor will be a scientist activists siding with the Sea Devils. So I think it's that last batch of things that are like the most interesting. Obviously, I spoke a bit about Mel being killed, but obviously this idea that that would lead to the Doctor being somewhat disillusioned with humanity sort of makes sense. Again, very similar to the opening of Children of Earth, where Gwen talks about, oh, maybe the Doctor looks away from us in shame, which would be a cool idea to revisit. The thing that I think has caused the most stir, though, is Russell Tovey as a new incarnation of the Master. To be honest, I've been very open about this, and it's not to do with Russell Tovey personally or any other Master actor, but I personally am kind of over the Master, if I'm completely honest. I feel like we've seen so much of them recently, and I feel like they've kind of done all that I think you can do with the character that's interesting. We've seen them be evil, we've seen them be redeemed, we've seen them be conflicted. There's only so many things I think you can do with that character. Maybe he'll put a brand new spin on it, and I'll see something and I'll go, oh, that's really good, that really works. But as of right now, I'm kind of like, I don't really want more Master. And I think if Russell Tovey is the Master, and he's introduced in a spin-off, number one, that'd be a weird place to introduce the Master, because obviously you want a sort of, audience that aren't necessarily familiar with the main show to get involved in the spin-off, and that then leads to more people getting on the main show. Like, imagine if, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example, Harold Saxon's Master is introduced in Torchwood. It just wouldn't really make much sense. So, I don't buy that, I'm going to be honest. Obviously, they do say here, these aren't my leaks, just leaks I have found on various sites, including Gallifrey Base. I think they start off pretty likely. I think the further we go down, the less likely they become. I think the stuff that I just flat out don't think will happen is the Master being played by Russell Tovey, and that sort of being part of the War Between the Land and the Sea spin-off. I also don't think Mel is going to be killed either. I kind of would like to see a character be killed in this new era, just because I feel like it would raise the stakes a little bit. But I just don't know whether I see it. This was fun, though. This was kind of like a trip down memory lane for me. I haven't spoken about one of these things in ages. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this, I mean, there haven't been that many Reddit leaks, but if there are, and you want to see me cover them, let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.